9:15 now at News Talk 580 WTCM. Coming up, we've got the good folks from Hamples in. That's always an informative visit when Rodrigo stops by. So that's coming up here on News Talk 580. But right now, we're going to talk education. That is a question and a discussion that's been going on. Michigan, in just about all aspects, has been failing. We're in the bottom 10%, 10 states in so many aspects. Our literacy rates are in trouble. What do we do? Well, the Michigan College Access Network has some thoughts, and we have Jamie Jacobs from the Michigan College Access Network joining us now. Jamie, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us, Jack.
Oh, you betcha. So tell me a little bit about the Michigan College Access Network.
Yeah, so the Michigan College Access Network, or MCAN, as we go by to make it shorter and easier, is a statewide nonprofit that's been helping Michigan residents have access to education and career opportunities for about the past 15 years. We work with K-12 schools, colleges, workforce partners, policymakers, and communities across the state to make sure people can get the education and skills they need to access good-paying jobs right here in our state.
So maybe this is too big a question, we'll have to do more discussion, but what's going on in Michigan? Why are we at these, according to maybe you folks at MCAN, why are we in the situation we're in Michigan?
Well, we have had a shifting economy in Michigan. So for a long time, we relied on being a manufacturing-based economy where middle-skill, lower-skill jobs provided folks access to those good-paying jobs that I just talked about. And those of us who are Michiganders right through and through, we know what that looked like. But as our economy has shifted, it's become more and more important that our residents have access, residents of all ages, those graduating right out of high school and also adults looking to participate in today's labor market. It's important that folks have access to the necessary education, skills, credentialing to get into those good paying jobs. And they're just higher skill jobs than they used to be, which means a mindset shift both for Michiganders in terms of what education and training is required, but also for our policymakers, folks like a governor or a legislature, to think about how do we make those opportunities accessible and affordable for our residents.
All right, so, and I guess it makes sense since it's Michigan College Access Network. You're not focused so much on the elementary, high school. You're saying, hey, when people get out of high school, we need to make sure that they can get to some type of secondary education, whether it be a university or a trade school, apprenticeship, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's exactly where we focus. Those other issues are obviously important. If literacy rates don't increase, if we can't compete in mathematics and make sure we're graduating students that are ready for the next step in education, that is a problem. So we're not here to say it's not a problem, but our piece of the puzzle that we focus in on is that what's next, what after high school, and that really things have shifted, and that education after high school is really what folks should think about as their next step.
So, what are some of your ideas? I mean, we've got the Michigan Reconnect, which I think has been fairly successful, and there's a couple of other programs out there that the state has tried to put together. Are they, in your opinion, are those programs that are working, or do they need help? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, the encouraging news, and I feel like there's not a lot of encouraging news, right, Jack, right now in education, but I think the encouraging news is that these programs are working. Programs like Michigan Reconnect, the Community College Guarantee, Michigan Achievement Scholarship. I hope since these programs have been funded for a few years, your viewers think that these sound familiar. We've invested a lot of state resources into these programs, but also into human capital to support people to access those programs. We've also invested in pre-apprenticeship programs, dual enrollment opportunities, grown the CTE or career and technical education landscape. Those things are working. So the good news is we have invested in things that are working. We are moving the needle. And what's been, I think, most exciting is that every time Michigan has made education simpler or more affordable, Michiganders have responded. What we need to do is ensure that the next governor that we elect uses this once in an 8-year opportunity to really expand and build upon those opportunities, because we already know what works, right? And we know, let's not go backwards, let's continue to go forward and invest and grow those programs and make it simpler and easier for folks to access both those programs and the education.
So one of the things I was noticing that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying is cut red tape, make it easier. I know when it comes to financial, requesting financial aid, some of these forms, some of these things are confusing as heck. At least they were for me.
Yeah.
And that makes it, you can get frustrated and say, "Ah, to heck with it." And then you don't avail yourself of what is available just because it's confusing and it takes forever.
Yeah, you are right. The federal government has made some steps in the last 4 years or so to simplify some of the federal pieces of this red tape and bureaucracy. Most financial aid, all of Michigan's state financial aid and the federal financial aid, and most institutional aid is accessed through what we call the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So in the last handful of years, that form has been really simplified. So for folks who maybe did that 10 plus years ago, or even for folks who maybe did it on paper, the process is much simpler than it used to be. But it still can feel daunting, and it still feels scary, and you still need to pull together information that can feel hard to pull together, but also, private and things that you're worried to share. It's why we also need to invest both in these financial aid programs, making sure that we are helping higher ed become more affordable, but also making the processes simpler and easier. How do we make sure that things like the skills that were earned in a work experience or an apprenticeship are automatically earning you credits? How do we make sure that folks know the financial aid that exists that helps them persist through red tape and paperwork and barriers? And how do we make sure folks have the human capital, right? These things often require the help of a school counselor, a financial aid advisor at a college, a mentor, another human that has experience navigating the systems, the confusion and the complexity of the process. We need to invest in the human capital as well.
So when you say that invest, what does that mean? Is it hiring more people or training more people that are already there?
Both and. So at MCAN, we do a lot of work to make sure that we are building the capacity both in K-12 and higher ed. So through things like deeper investments in school counselors, folks like college advisors who build the capacity of school counselors. And as we think about higher ed, making sure that we've got the resources to staff up both the college advisors, financial aid advisors, and a program we've got called completion coaches. How do we make sure that folks are really supported? But then we've got to make sure folks are trained, to your point. These issues, you may have experienced them yourself, but your experience is not everyone's experience. So training is really critical to make sure that folks are skilled at supporting the Michigan residents that they're set up to serve. And that starts with a familiarity with all of these programs and those forms and processes that are part of navigating the process.
Folks, we're chatting with Jamie Jacobs, who's with the Michigan College Access Network. And Jamie, I guess your group has put out an article that was in Bridge magazine, I believe it was, talking about this. And one of the things that I find interesting, and I think everybody who's listening, I would hope and think agrees the fact that, the world is becoming a little more technological. You're probably going to need something, not necessarily from, University of Michigan or Michigan State University, but through some type of post-high school training and apprenticeship and that sort of thing. Michigan's goal in the article said, we set a 60% credential attainment by 2030, but many are saying, it should probably be more like 69%. So we're not even close. How do we bridge that? How do we move this forward?
We've really got to think about continuing to invest in these programs like Michigan Reconnect, the Community College Guarantee, Michigan Achievement, and think about how we expand these programs. It's great that we have them. We must sustain them, but there's also opportunities to expand them. We did about a 1-year expansion, for example, of Michigan Reconnect, which lowered the age of eligibility to include 21 to 24-year-olds. And if any one of our listeners or Jackie, you know of any folks 21 to 24, that's when a lot of Michiganders who didn't enroll into post-secondary opportunities right after high school sort of say, look, I'd really be interested in enrolling in education now. And right now in the state of Michigan, there isn't a financial aid program that supports you. But when Michigan Reconnect supported those students, in that 1 year, 30,000 Michiganders said, hey, I'm interested in that opportunity. And that's in 1 year only. So things like expanding Michigan Reconnect to include those young adults 21 to 24, thinking about how do we support adults who are currently supported through Michigan Reconnect to access a certificate or an associate degree. How do we ensure they have access to a bachelor's degree? Maybe they want to become a nurse. They want to become, a physician. We all know that it's taking a long time right now. How long do we want to wait to see the next doctor when we have an illness? We need folks to access those bachelor's degrees as well. How do we make sure that we've got financial aid programs that cover some of those gaps that right now exist? And then beyond the financial aid, how do we ensure, like I mentioned before, that we are awarding credit for work experience and learning that's happened outside of the classroom or a traditional classroom, things through like apprenticeships or even years of working, expanding dual enrollment, other early college credit taking opportunities that really expedite and make a smooth transition for high school students right into post-secondary, or even supporting expenses beyond tuition. We all know that tuition is expensive and tuition is costly, but sometimes it takes up all the air in the room, and we know that students need support around things like transportation and childcare and housing to ensure that they can actually get to class and participate in the learning and the opportunities. So those are some of the things that we've really got to think about investing in the coming years.
All right, very good. We're just about out of time. I think one of the things I would say, Jamie, you can agree or disagree, if you are thinking about any type of post-high school education, the path might be a little tough, but sometimes you got to work through the hard stuff. Hopefully we get a little more refined in how people can access these things. And to your point, hopefully our next governor takes a serious look at how do we train this workforce that is our Michigan folks. So.
Yeah, I'd say at the end of the day, the way we look at this, we talk a lot about talent shortage. Michigan wouldn't say we have a talent shortage as much as an opportunity shortage. And our job is really to make sure talent and opportunity can meet, and these programs help us to make that possible.
All right. Somebody wants to read more about what you are doing at MCAN. Is there a place they can find this information and these thoughts?
Yeah, our website would be the best place to go to, and you can find us at micollegeaccess.org.
Very good, Jamie. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Jack, for having us.
You bet.